Welcome to Prima Donna News Reactions channel, where we will give our unbiased reactions to the trending news. Not only will we give our reactions, but we will also dive into previously circulated clips many may have forgotten about. Don't forget to like this video, share it, and subscribe if you haven't already. Enjoy the content and leave your thoughts below.
The allegations are just despicable. But here's the question: are they proof of RICO, racketeering, influenced corrupt organization? If anybody knows, it is my next guest, Maria Cruz Melendez. She's a former federal prosecutor for the Eastern District of New York. She investigated and convicted R. Kelly on, you guessed it, RICO charges. She also prosecuted multiple organized crime cases and secured the conviction of members of La Cosa Nostra. Maria, welcome to the show. It's so good to have you. I can't believe the number of naysayers that, I don't know if you're watching the media coverage and the analysis on the Diddy trial. I'm following it moment to moment, and I see RICO left, right, and center. But so many people who are smart lawyers say, nope, nothing to see here. What do you think?
I think there are a couple of things. I think it's tough to ask the question about whether or not the government has proven RICO, particularly so early on. I know there was a lot of commentary very, very early on. And when you're first getting the victim's statements about things, I think it's very easy to say, well, the victim is just talking about domestic violence or assault issues that are more state law types of issues. However, I think, and you mentioned this in your opening, the fact that Mia has testified to information that she obtained as a person who worked for Sean Combs, which means she was inside of the enterprise that has been charged by the government. And so in that situation, I think she provides powerful evidence that can be used by the government to show that an enterprise existed and that the enterprise was used, including herself, in order to engage in the conduct that's been alleged. One of the other things I would just quickly note as well is that in this case, RICO itself, substantive RICO, hasn't been charged. Racketeering conspiracy is what has been charged. And so what the government needs to show is that Sean Combs agreed with at least one other person to engage in racketeering. And so they don't have to prove specific racketeering acts in the way that you would need to if you would charge substantive racketeering.
Do you see a lot of similarities between the R. Kelly case and the Diddy case? Because everybody wants to compare, this particular case to the mob, and they say there's no similarity between them. What about R. Kelly?
Yeah, there's certainly parallels. You have a high-profile defendant who's alleged to have used his legitimate business and the people around him, his circle of people, whether that's friends, colleagues, but also individuals who specifically worked for him, assistants, runners, security, in order to make sure that he was able to commit the crimes that have been alleged. And I think some of the testimony that has happened this week in particular demonstrates the ways in which that he used individuals at his disposal in order to maintain control over individuals like Cassie Ventura.
Yeah, I keep hearing evidence of coercion, control, fear. I'm also hearing obstruction of justice. I'm hearing bribery. I'm hearing all these predicate acts, right? But still, so many analysts are saying, no, there's no enterprise here. Where do you see the enterprise coming in with Diddy as compared to the enterprise that came in with R. Kelly?
Yeah, the enterprises, I think, are similar as well. Something that people sometimes confuse about racketeering is that they think that the enterprise has to be criminal. With racketeering, that's not the case. You can have a legitimate enterprise. And the question is whether or not that legitimate enterprise, which can be a business, is being used in order to commit the pattern of racketeering that's been charged. And with racketeering enterprises, it can be as informal as a pickup basketball team. So as long as individuals are associated in fact and they're engaging in the pattern of racketeering that's alleged, then you've got an enterprise. And so the fact that Sean Combs has a business that functioned where he had individuals who were at his disposal, and to the extent he used assistants or other individuals who worked for him, who were in his orbit, in his circle, then I think an enterprise can be, and I think we've heard a lot of evidence that shows an enterprise has been proven.
Yeah, isn't it interesting? I think a lot of people also can use the language knowing or unknowing in terms of committing. Can use the language knowing or unknowing in terms of committing. Feds can use the language knowing or unknowing in terms of committing a crime. So some of these assistants who may have been dispatched to commit a crime, let's just say Uncle Polly, the testimony that Uncle Polly took poor Capricorn Clark to a vacant building and threatened that she was going to swim with the fishes in the East River and, you know, told her she had to take lie detector tests for 5 days. Sounds to me like Uncle Polly should have known that's kidnapping, but even if Uncle Polly didn't know it was kidnapping, there's the knowing and unknowing aspect of it, isn't there?
Absolutely. Individuals who are members of the enterprise, that label doesn't mean that you yourself know that criminal activity is happening or that you've engaged in criminal activity. It means that you, in particular instances, it means that you yourself have provided some sort of an assistance to the individual who's being charged with racketeering. And so in this situation, you've got Sean Combs using security, using assistance, using anyone who's at his disposal as part of his organization and his business in order to engage in the charged conduct. I think one of the things we heard from Mia that's been reported is that she said at one point she didn't provide information or she didn't tell law enforcement, and that at certain times she didn't say no to Sean Combs because of the way he reacted if she had said no to bringing him a sandwich. And so I think she certainly had very, very strong testimony that suggested that he not only used and coerced Cassie Ventura, but also when it came to his assistants, like Mia, also exerted control via humiliation, physical abuse, and other forms, including financial form. I think you mentioned earlier the fact that he threatened her pay during certain instances. And so all of these things have been alleged as the means and methods of the enterprise. And I think that the government is certainly trying to get all this information in order to prove those allegations that have been made in the indictment.
There's also the extortion part, right? I'm going to release sex tapes of you. I'm going to send the sex tapes to your parents, and I'm going to have your parents fired. Like, those are all extortion, too. Hey, I got a question for you. That every piece of information I hear in this case, be it, you know, testimony or photographs, evidence, it makes me hate Sean Combs. Whether he's guilty or not guilty, I personally despise this person just from what I saw him do to Cassie on the hotel video and then admit to it later on social media. And I wonder how powerful that is for jurors, meaning this could be very complicated for jurors to figure out RICO, you know, it could racketeering and racketeering conspiracy, sex trafficking. Do you think they can hate him just enough to say, I don't care what the charge is, I'm voting guilty on something, anything?
Yeah, look, the defense counsel is going to say, likely in their closing, you don't have to like Sean Combs. You don't have to think that he's a good person. But at the end of the day, they're going to argue that this is domestic violence, this is assault, it's not racketeering. But the jury has received, and they will receive instructions by the court. They have to make their decision not based on emotion, not based on feeling sorry for certain witnesses, or even their hatred, to the extent it comes to that, for the defendant. They have to make their decision based on the evidence that's been presented, and they have to come to a decision beyond a reasonable doubt. Is it possible that jurors could have trouble distinguishing those things? Absolutely, but they've taken an oath, and the hope is always that they stick to that oath when they're deliberating.
Yeah, but you and I have seen our fair share of these cases in these juries, and there's all sorts of jury nullification that goes on. They vote with their gut, right? And their gut oftentimes can be emotional. They vote with their gut, right? And their gut oftentimes can be emotional. They vote with their gut, right? And their gut oftentimes can be emotional too.
I'll end this video here and make the record known why Robert Kelly is still in for the fight for his freedom. The prosecutors have created the blueprint in establishing how to prosecute these cases at their discretion. Yet, like with Robert Kelly, the many flaws within the charges, and the strategies used leave plenty of room for a judicial remedy for overzealous prosecutors, and they're creative. Spin on RICOs to charge for alleged bad acts beyond the statutes of limitations. Leave your comments below, and don't forget to like this video and share it.